Hey, how's it going? So, I got another story for you. So, back in the day, when my two older children were younger, they used to spend 2 weeks in the summer with their grandmother on their mom's side. And had been going on since they were little kids, and it was, a nice little vacation from the kids, and after the separation and divorce, my ex-wife seemed to always want to do whatever she could to make my life miserable. I mean, it was deeper than that. That's being nice. So this particular year, she comes to me beginning of summer, and she's like, "Hey, I picked this weekend for the kids, this 2 week period for the kids to go visit my parents, and I talked to my mom, and she's on board, and I just want to make sure you're okay with it, so she can go buy tickets and all this stuff." And I don't know, I was like in the middle of work or something. I didn't even look at it. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. So when the time comes, I realize that 2 week period that they're going to be in Tucson visiting their grandparents, Father's Day was right in the middle of that. And man, I was heated. I knew she did that shit on purpose. I knew that, that it was a ploy, but, I was like, whatever. So I'm going to see my kids on Father's Day. There's not anything. Whoa. That you could do about it. Am I going too fast? What'd you do that for? Anyways, so I make this plan to pick them up Father's Day morning. I'm going to drive to Tucson. I'm going to pick the kids up Father's Day morning. I'm going to spend the day with them in Tucson, and then drop them back off and drive back to Phoenix. For those of you that aren't from the Valley, it's like a 2-hour drive. It's like going from San Diego to LA, or something like that. And so at that time, okay, so before I get in the story, I should preface this, that there are a lot of people on my Facebook that were there this particular evening, and I haven't decided if I'm definitely not going to tag anybody, but I was debating if I was going to use names of people who aren't family. Like Joey's a big part of this story, and most everybody knows who Joey is. So I'm gonna put he didn't. I mean, I'm just gonna use his name. Whatever. It's just a funny story that happened to us. To me, this story is being told from my perspective. So anyways, so I tell Joey, hey, I'm coming to town. He's like, well, coming early. He's working at a comedy store, a comedy club in Tucson at the time. And so I'm like, cool, whatever. He's like, come in the day before. I'll get you free tickets. You go watch the show. I'm like, cool. So I come out on Saturday. I go to my aunt's house. I drop off my stuff. I drive up to the comedy club, and I just walk right in. Nobody's at the front door. There was somebody at the front door. He was on the phone. It turns out it was one of the comedians, and he's just like, oh yeah, go in. So I go in, and I don't see anybody. I don't see Joey or anybody really, and so I just walk right into where the comedy show is happening, and I sit down at an empty table, and immediately somebody comes and grabs me, and they pull me out like, yeah, you can't just walk in the middle of the show, like, and I explain to them who I am, and that, what's going on. And they're like, okay, well, go have a seat in the bar until this show gets out, and then there's going to be another show after this, and then that's the one that you have seats in. So I'm like, cool. So I go sit in the bar, I have some drinks, and Joey comes out, says hi, and then he proceeds to tell me that that one of the comedians, so first he tells me that we're all going to go out afterwards. The comedians are going out with us, and there's a bunch of really cute girls that work there, and they're all coming out with us. And then he happens to mention that one of these girls was born and raised in Italy and came here when she was like 12 or something, if I remember correctly. She married her high school sweetheart, and they are getting a divorce, and they're separated. And this is the first time she's gonna go out single. And I'm just like, okay. And so Joey's friend Pete, who works there, is gonna be hanging out, and then the manager and some of the other girls. And then he also proceeds to tell me that one of these comedians, I guess, hooked up with the girl who he was hooking up with, and he was kind of upset about it. And so I went into this thing, expecting, kind of like with a little bit of a grudge, because Joey's like, yeah, screw that guy, whatever, So I'm like, okay, whatever, screw that guy. So the show starts, and that guy goes on stage, and he is absolutely hilarious. I mean, it's hard not to like the guy. He was so funny, and his name is Jose Sardui. This story that I'm about to tell you guys, I follow Jose now, and I was telling him this story. Years later, I reached out to him. I think he was coming to town. I was going to go check him out, and I was telling him my version of these events, kind of reiterating, because I'm sure he didn't remember. To him, it was just another town and another tour, whatever. And we had a good laugh over it, but it's a great story. So anyways, and then him seeing from my perspective how everything played out kind of shed some light on some of the events that occurred. So anyways, so I'm like, cool, whatever. So the dude kills it. He comes out, and the show's over, and they clean up, and we're gonna go to this bar. We're gonna meet at this bar. So we first get there, and the little Italian girl's smoking hot. The manager girl, who I'm not gonna name, who's really good friends with Joey, I always thought was smoking hot. And there was a couple other girls that were there with us who were really, really cute. And then it was me and Joey and Joey's friend Pete, who works there, and then Jose, the comedian, and then the other comedian that was there with him, that I think he headlined that night. I never caught his name, but he had met a girl the night before, and they had hooked up, and they were kind of partnered up at this point. He was real quiet. They weren't really involved in everything that we were doing. They were, but they weren't. They were like doing their own thing. But anyways, so we get to the bar, and we all give introductions, and we're all just kind of standing there, and it's kind of awkward, and they just had a comedy show, so we got there super late. So the bar's like gonna close soon, and then one of the people that are with us is like, hey, and we realize it's Tucson, which is a college town, and one of the girls is like, hey, there's a party at my house. Let's all go back to my house. It's it's happening, whatever. So we're like, cool, and we all go back to the house, and as the night progresses, I'm just looking at the scene, and it looks like me and Joey and Pete, who's at this point annihilated, inebriated so much he could barely talk, and Jose are basically running parallels on this little Italian girl. Every time one of us would leave, the other one would walk up, and we're just basically rotating, trying to pick up on her. And at some point, I realized that I think I got a shot. I think I could close this deal, or at least, I don't know, something. And but I also realized that Jose also is, could probably close this deal, or at least, hook up with her. She showed interest in me, and she also showed interest in Jose, and I could see that. So I decide that I'm gonna, and then he's the comedian, so, how do you compete with that? So I need to level the playing field. So I wait till Jose's talking to some random girl, and I walk up and realize that we only spoke like 5 words to each other at the bar. We didn't really say much to each other at the party. and I see that, you know, that's my direct competition for this girl's attention. So I wait till he's talking to some random girl, and I walk up to them and I'm like, you know, hey, I introduce myself to the chick. I'm like, hey, my name is Rich, and then I just completely just fabricate this crazy story. And Jose doesn't know what to think. He's just laughing. He has no idea what's going on. And just out of note, because from his perspective, it was just out of nowhere. I walk up and I'm like, yeah, you know, me and Jose are good friends. We grew up in the same town together. And once a year, I fly out to one of his shows. So I flew out to today's show, and you know, dude's super cool. He's super funny. You know, he's always popping a girl. And then I kind of make a joke. I'm like, you know what they say about Jose back home, don't you? And she's like, what? And I'm like, and then I just kind of walk away, and he's just laughing. He doesn't know what to think. So later on, fucking guy. Oh, excuse my language. I'm trying not to cuss anymore, ever. But anyway, so Jose, so some time goes by, and I'm talking to some girl, and Jose comes up and starts wingmanning for me, and then now this guy and I are wingmanning for each other, talking each other up to these girls. And I don't know if he did it, because he never did it to the Italian girl. He did it to the other girl. So I don't know if he had the same plan I had. But at one point, I know that the one girl, we'll just call her the manager lady, tells the girl, don't hook up with him. You know, he's just trying to sleep with you, whatever she said. And that, in my mind, that means I'm getting close. That means I'm making progress. Like there's something. It's not my imagination, you know. So anyways, it's getting late. The party's almost over. It's like early in the morning, like, you know, 3 or 4 or something like that. And Joey's like, let's go to breakfast. So me and Joey and Pete jump in Joey's front seat of Joey's car, which there's not. It's 2 seats in the front. And then the manager lady, the Italian girl in the middle, and the other girl who Joey had been hooking up with, that hooked up with the comedian the night before, the 3 girls jump in the back, and the 3 boys are in the front. And we're driving to breakfast. And at one point, oh man. So at one point, Joey gets my attention, and the girls were, I guess, in the back making out, if I remember correctly. And so it just was like one of these deals where I felt like they were trying to, you know, that they were, so there's a term I don't want to use, but, you know, they were making it difficult for me so they can make it easier for themselves, or something like that, you know, is the thought at the time. So we go to breakfast, and you know, it's gonna be morning soon, and we go back to Joey's house. My aunt's in her room asleep, and she's deaf. She can't hear us, and you know, it's too late. It's too early to buy alcohol. It's not, you know. And so we get back to Joey's house, and you know, it looks like the sun's starting to come up. It's summertime, so the sun comes up here super early. And the girls are like, well, let's go back to this girl's house and go swimming. And Joey's like, well, I don't have any beer, but I got some alcohol. And he goes into his room and pulls out a bottle of tequila. And mind you, I got to go pick up my kids in 5 hours, you know? So I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I got to get some sleep. So finally I just told him, like, look, you guys either got to get naked or you guys got to get out. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And you know, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. And Joey's like, oh, dude, you know? But I mean, the fact is I had to be somewhere. I had to get some sleep. And, you know, it was a great night. It was so funny and so much fun. But the night was over, and either, you know, this was going to happen or it wasn't going to happen, but I wasn't going to go drive around town anymore. And so I just very bluntly was just like, all right, you guys either got to get naked or you guys got to get out. And so they left, and I went to sleep, and then I went and picked my kids up and spent the day with them and all that. But I don't know, it's just a funny story, a funny thing that happened years ago. I just thought I'd share. Anyways,